No one walked near Corridor 7 anymore. Even the armed security guards avoided that side of the space station. The lights there always flickered. The air felt heavy, and sometimes a deep growl echoed through the metal walls. Everyone knew why. The monster lived there. Its name was Krathos. Krathos was not a normal pet. He was not small. He was not cute. He was not friendly. He was a war beast. 6 glowing yellow eyes. Thick dark scales. Long claws sharp enough to cut steel. And teeth that looked like curved blades. He belonged to Zarya. Zarya was not an ordinary alien girl. She was tall, proud, and cold. Her silver blue skin shimmered under the station lights. She walked like a commander. She spoke like she expected everyone to obey. And everyone did, because of Krathos. Years ago, Zarya rescued the creature from a war planet. Krathos had been trained for battle. He had destroyed enemy soldiers. He had survived explosions. He had never been defeated. People said he once broke a metal training robot in half with one bite. No one touched Krathos. No one even looked at him too long. Except one person, Ethan. Ethan was the new human mechanic on the station. He was not tall, not scary, not powerful. Just a normal human with brown hair and calm eyes. He fixed broken doors, damaged ships, and power circuits. He smiled a lot. He talked to everyone, even aliens who ignored him. The first time Ethan heard the growl from Corridor 7, he stopped walking. He did not look afraid. He looked curious. What is that sound? He asked a nearby worker. The alien worker froze. Do not go there. Why? That is Zarya's war beast. Ethan blinked. War beast? Yes, it has killed before. Ethan slowly nodded. Most humans would avoid danger. Ethan walked toward it. The corridor became darker as he moved forward. The lights flickered above him. The metal floor vibrated slightly. Another growl echoed. Deep, heavy, dangerous. At the end of the corridor, behind a large reinforced energy barrier, Krathos stood. He was massive, even bigger than Ethan expected. His 6 eyes turned slowly toward the human. The air felt tense. 2 guards watched from a distance, ready to activate emergency shields. Krathos stepped closer to the barrier. His claws scratched the metal floor. Ethan did not move. He just stared at the creature carefully, not at the claws, not at the teeth. At the eyes, something felt strange. Krathos growled again. But this time, it sounded different. It did not sound angry. It sounded uncomfortable. Ethan tilted his head. Krathos shifted his body slightly. His scales looked dull. There was dirt between the armored plates. Something sticky clung to his lower side. Ethan frowned. That must itch, he said softly. The guards stared at him like he was insane. Step back, human, one guard shouted. Krathos suddenly slammed one claw against the energy barrier. The entire corridor shook. Alarms blinked red. The guards raised their weapons. Ethan did not step back. He stepped closer. Krathos pressed his large head near the barrier. His 6 eyes blinked slowly. Ethan looked closer. Under the thick scales, the skin looked irritated, dry, almost painful. Ethan spoke quietly. You're not angry, are you? The beast let out a lower growl, almost like a tired sigh. Behind them, heavy footsteps echoed. Zarya arrived. Her sharp eyes immediately locked onto Ethan. What are you doing? She demanded. Her voice was cold and powerful. Ethan turned. Calmly, looking. You are standing too close. He looks uncomfortable. Zarya's expression darkened. He is a war beast. He does not feel discomfort. He feels rage. Krathos suddenly shifted again and rubbed his side roughly against the barrier, as if trying to scratch something he could not reach. Ethan noticed. Zarya did not. Ethan crossed his arms. When was the last time he was clean? The guards froze. Zarya stared at him as if he had insulted her entire species. Cleaned? She repeated slowly. Yes, washed, bathed. Zarya's eyes flashed with anger. He is not a house pet. He is a warrior creature. Ethan looked back at Kratos. The beast slowly lowered his head. One of his eyes blinked. Unevenly, Ethan sighed. Warrior or not, he's dirty. The guards gasped. No one had ever spoken like that to Zarya. Zarya stepped forward. Human, she said sharply. You know nothing of our customs. Kratos has bathed in blood. He does not need water. Ethan muttered quietly. Yeah, that's probably the problem. Kratos suddenly made a strange sound, not a roar, not a growl. Almost a soft rumble. His massive tail moved slightly. Ethan noticed again. He stepped even closer to the barrier. Zarya's voice rose. If you value your life, you will step away. Ethan looked directly at Kratos. Then he smiled. I think he just needs a bath. The entire corridor went silent. Even the station hum seemed to pause. Zarya's face slowly changed from anger to disbelief. You will do no such thing. Ethan turned around calmly. Where do you keep your cleaning supplies? The guards stared at him in horror. Zarya's voice became dangerously quiet. If you touch him, he will tear you apart. Ethan glanced back at the massive beast. Kratos stared at him. 6 glowing eyes. But no attack, no rage. Only something else. Something almost hopeful. Ethan nodded slowly to himself. He won't, he said softly. And for the first time in years, Kratos stopped growling. To be continued. The entire station was talking about it. The human wants to wash the war beast. Some aliens laughed. Some were afraid. Some placed bets on how long Ethan would survive. Zarya did not laugh. She was furious. Inside her private chamber, she watched security footage again and again. The moment when Ethan stood calmly in front of Kratos replayed in her mind. Why did Kratos not attack? Kratos attacked everyone, except him. Meanwhile, Ethan was inside the engineering bay. He was not scared. He was building something. Large water pipes, pressure valves, foam tanks, 2 cleaning drones, and 1 giant industrial hose. One alien engineer whispered, "You are really going to do this?" Ethan tightened a bolt. Yes. That creature has broken bottlenecks. Yeah, Ethan said casually. But he can't scratch his own back, the alien blinked. Scratch? His back? Ethan pulled up a hologram image of Kratos. He zoomed in on the irritated skin. See this? Dirt between the scale plates. Dried fluids. Probably from old battles. It's stuck. His skin can't breathe. The alien stared. You studied him? Ethan shrugged. I've seen animals like this on Earth. Different shape, same problem. Earth creatures are not war monsters. Pain is pain, Ethan replied calmly. At that moment, the door slid open. Zarya entered. The room became silent. Her eyes scanned the equipment. The water tanks, the foam canisters, the pressure hose. Her voice was ice cold. You are preparing for suicide. Ethan looked up and smiled politely. Good evening. I gave you a warning. And I heard you. Then why do you continue? Ethan wiped his hands with a cloth. Because he is suffering. Zarya's eyes flashed. You dare claim I mistreat my own beast? Ethan paused. He did not look angry. He looked serious. I think you love him, Ethan said carefully. But love is not always enough. The room felt tense. Zarya stepped closer. He was born for war. He feels no weakness. As if hearing her words, a loud roar echoed from Corridor 7. But this roar sounded different, long, frustrated, almost desperate. Ethan slowly looked toward the sound. Does that sound like rage to you? He asked quietly. Zarya did not answer. For a moment, Doubt crossed her face. But she quickly pushed it away. "You will not touch him," she said firmly. Ethan picked up the industrial hose. "I'm not asking." Gasps filled the room. Zarya's voice dropped dangerously low. "If he kills you, it will not be my fault." Ethan nodded. "Fair enough." Corridor 7, 1 hour later, security teams were ready. Energy shields active, medical drones on standby. Half the station secretly watched through camera feeds. Kratos stood behind the reinforced barrier. His 6 eyes glowed in the dim light. He paced slowly. His claws scraped the floor. The massive hose system was connected outside the barrier. Zarya stood with crossed arms. Her face showed no emotion. Ethan walked forward alone. No armor, no weapons, just a cleaning suit and gloves. The guards whispered, "He is insane. He will die." Ethan activated the intercom. "Hey, big guy." Kratos stopped moving. 6 eyes locked onto the human. Ethan's voice softened. "I'm going to help you." The guards exchanged confused looks. Zarya remained silent. Ethan signaled the control panel. The barrier slowly powered down. The humming sound faded. Now there was nothing between Ethan and the war beast. The air felt heavy. Kratos lowered his head slightly. A warning growl vibrated through the corridor. Ethan did not run. He slowly placed the hose on the ground. He stepped closer. Step by step, Kratos towered over him. One swipe of those claws could end everything. Zarya's fingers tightened. "Last chance, human," she warned. Ethan ignored her. He looked up at the giant creature. Close now, very close. He could see the dry cracks in the scales, the irritated skin, the stuck dirt, and something else. Tiredness. Kratos suddenly lifted one massive paw. Gasps echoed. Guards aimed weapons. Zarya's eyes widened. The paw came down hard, right beside Ethan, not on him, beside him. The floor cracked, but Ethan did not move. He slowly raised one hand and gently placed it on the creature's thick leg. The entire station froze. Kratos stiffened. A deep rumble escaped his chest. Seconds felt like hours, then the rumble changed. It became softer, lower, almost like vibration. Ethan smiled slightly. "Yeah," he whispered. "That's what I thought." He stepped back and grabbed the hose. "Okay," he said calmly. "Let's try this." He turned the pressure dial slowly. Water began to flow. At first, just a light spray. The water touched Kratos' scales. The beast jerked violently. He roared. The corridor shook. Several aliens screamed. Zarya took a step forward, but Ethan did not stop. He kept the pressure low. Easy, easy. The water ran between the scales. Dirt began to loosen. Kratos roared again, but this time he did not attack. Instead, he leaned slightly into the stream. As if testing it. Ethan noticed immediately. "Oh," he murmured. "You like that?" Zarya's eyes widened in disbelief. Kratos slowly lowered his massive body. His tail stopped twitching. Quieter. Ethan slowly reached for the foam trigger. He hesitated for 1 second. Then he pressed it. White foam exploded outward. It covered Kratos' dark scales instantly. The war beast jumped in shock. Foam splashed everywhere. Aliens screamed. Zarya shouted, "What have you done?" But then something impossible happened. Kratos made a sound no one had ever heard before. Not a roar, not a growl, a strange, vibrating purr. The giant war beast rolled slightly onto his side. Foam covered his body. And for the first time in years he looked peaceful. Zarya stared. Her mind could not understand what she was seeing. The human stood beside the most dangerous creature on the station, covered in soap. Smiling. And very much alive. To be continued. Corridor 7 had never looked like this before. White foam covered the walls. Soap bubbles floated in the air. Security guards stood frozen, weapons still raised. And in the middle of it all, the most feared war beast on the station was lying. On his side, covered in suds, Kratos, the creature that once destroyed battle machines. The creature that made soldiers step back was making a strange, deep, vibrating sound. Almost like thunder, but softer. Ethan stood beside him, holding the hose carefully. He adjusted the water pressure slowly. "See?" he said calmly. "Not so scary." Zarya did not answer. She could not. Her mind was trying to understand what her eyes were seeing. Kratos suddenly shifted his massive body. Foam splashed everywhere. Aliens screamed again. But this time, Kratos did not roar in anger. He stretched one huge leg outward, then another, as if he was enjoying the sensation. Ethan stepped closer. He gently sprayed between the thick scale plates. Dark, dirty water flowed down the metal floor. Years of dried battle stains washed away. Kratos let out a low rumble again, but now it sounded peaceful. Ethan noticed something strange. The 6 glowing eyes were no longer sharp and aggressive. They were half closed, relaxed. Zarya finally found her voice. "What are you doing to him?" she demanded. Ethan answered without fear. "I'm helping him breathe." Zarya clenched her fists. "He was bred for war. He does not need comfort." Ethan slowly looked at her. "Maybe that's the problem." The words hit harder than any weapon. Zarya stepped forward. "Stop this at once." But at that exact moment, Kratos lifted his massive head. He looked directly at Zarya, then he made a short growl. Not violent, not protective, more like warning. Zarya froze. Kratos had never growled at her before. He slowly moved his body closer to Ethan. The entire station gasped. Ethan gently placed a foam brush against the creature's thick neck. "Good boy," he said softly. Kratos' tail hit the floor once. Not in anger, in rhythm. The deep rumbling sound grew stronger. The security guards slowly lowered their weapons. They did not understand what was happening. But the beast was clearly not attacking, he was responding. Ethan carefully washed around one sensitive area near Kratos' shoulder. The beast suddenly flinched. Zarya moved instantly. "I warned you," but Ethan quickly stepped back. "Wait," he studied the area. There was a scar, old, deep, under layers of dirt and hardened fluids. Ethan lowered his voice. "Who hurt you?" Kratos' breathing changed. Slow, heavy. The foam slowly slid off the scar, revealing damaged scale tissue. Ethan looked at Zarya. "When did this happen?" Zarya's eyes flickered. She hesitated. "In his final battle," she said quietly. "He protected my transport ship." Ethan nodded slowly. "And after that?" Zarya did not answer. Silence filled the corridor. Kratos let out a low sound again. But now it sounded almost sad. Ethan carefully adjusted the water pressure and gently cleaned the scar area. No harsh movement, no sudden spray. Just slow care. Kratos did not resist. Instead, he slowly lowered his massive head and rested it near Ethan's shoulder. The entire corridor went silent. 6 glowing eyes closed. The war beast trusted him. Zarya felt something unfamiliar in her chest. Not anger. Not pride. Something else, doubt. Kratos suddenly rolled slightly onto his back. Foam covered his stomach. His claws curled inward. The most feared creature on the station was exposing his weakest side. A sign of trust. Ethan laughed softly. "There you go." The guards stared in disbelief. One whispered, "That is impossible." Zarya stepped closer. She looked at her beast, truly looked, not as a weapon, not as a symbol of strength, but as a living creature. She noticed small things she never saw before. The tension in his muscles, the irritation in his skin, The way he reacted to gentle touch. Kratos opened one eye and looked at her. But instead of standing proudly beside her, he nudged closer to Ethan. Zarya felt it clearly now. He was choosing, not through command, not through fear, but through comfort. Ethan finished rinsing the foam. Clean, dark scales shined under the corridor lights. Kratos looked different, stronger, healthier, but calmer. Ethan stepped back slowly. All done. Kratos slowly stood up. The guards tensed, but the beast did not roar. He did not show his teeth. He walked slowly around Ethan once. Then, he gently lowered his massive head. Right in front of the human, Ethan understood. He reached up and scratched behind one thick scale ridge. Kratos made that deep vibrating sound again. Louder this time. Zarya whispered, almost to herself, "He has never done that." Ethan smiled slightly. Maybe he never had the chance. Kratos suddenly turned toward Zarya. He stared at her, long, silent. Then he walked back to Ethan's side and sat, like a guardian, but not a war guardian, a loyal one. Zarya felt her control slipping, her authority, her certainty. The entire station watched the feat in shock. The war beast was not tamed. He was not defeated. He was choosing kindness. And that was far more powerful. Ethan finally looked at Zarya. "He doesn't need to be feared," he said calmly. "He needs to be understood." Zarya had no answer. For the first time in her life, she did not know what to say. Behind them, Kratos let out one final deep rumble, not rage, not threat, something closer to peace. But far away, in the upper control chambers of the station, someone else was watching the live feed, and they were not pleased. To be continued. The news spread across the station within minutes. The war beast has changed. The human touched him. The beast obeyed. Some aliens were shocked, some were curious. But in the upper control chamber, the high command was angry. Very angry. A tall, armored alien officer slammed his claw on the control table. "This is unacceptable." On the large screen, the recorded footage replayed Kratos rolling in foam. Kratos resting near the human. Kratos choosing. "Ethan," the officer's voice was cold. "A war beast does not behave like this." Beside him, another commander narrowed his glowing eyes. "The human has interfered with our sacred training." They made a decision. Zarya was summoned. Zarya's chamber. Zarya stood alone. She had just finished drying. Kratos with heated air panels. His scales now shined dark blue under the lights. He looked healthier. Stronger. But softer in his movements. Kratos slowly walked to Zarya for a moment. She thought he would stand beside her as always. Instead, he stopped halfway and turned his head toward the corridor. As if waiting for someone else. Zarya felt that strange tight feeling again. Before she could think further, her communicator activated. "Commander Zarya, report to High Command immediately." Her jaw tightened. She knew what this was about. She looked at Kratos. "Stay," she ordered. Kratos blinked. But did not move closer. For the first time, her command felt weaker. High Command chamber. The room was large and dark. Tall metallic walls. Cold. White lights. Zarya walked in with her usual confidence. But inside, she felt something shift in. The High Commander spoke first. "You allowed a human to humiliate our war beast." Zarya's eyes sharpened. He was not humiliated. He was covered in soap. Soft laughter echoed from some officers. Zarya ignored it. "He is healthier now," she said firmly. A commander leaned forward. "War beasts are not meant to be comfortable. They are meant to dominate." Zarya hesitated. Images flashed in her mind. Kratos rolling peacefully. Kratos exposing his weak side. Kratos choosing Ethan. The High Commander continued. "The human has altered his behavior. He made him soft." The words sounded like An insult, Zarya spoke slowly. He did not weaken him. Then explain why Kratos no longer growls at the human. Silence filled the room. Zarya did not answer. Immediately, because she did not know. The commander's voice lowered. We cannot allow emotional corruption. Zarya's eyes snapped up. Corruption? Yes, the human is influencing him. He is teaching him weakness. Zarya felt something rise inside her. Not pride, not anger. Something protective. He is teaching him care. She said quietly. The entire chamber went silent. Care. That word did not belong in war language. The High Commander stood. You are emotionally compromised. Zarya's heart beat faster. You will remove the human from contact with the beast. Zarya froze. Remove Ethan? Before she could respond, the doors suddenly opened. Security guards entered, and behind them, Ethan.unarmed.com. The commanders stared. Who allowed him here? One officer barked. Ethan raised a hand politely. I heard my name. The room filled with tension. Wyatt turned sharply. You should not be here. Ethan shrugged slightly. Probably true. The High Commander studied him. You interfere with things you do not understand, human. Ethan met his glowing gaze. With respect, I understand more than you think. Murmurs spread across the chamber. The commander's voice became dangerous. You think soap makes you superior? Ethan shook his head. No, he paused. Understanding does. The High Commander stepped closer. You changed the beast. No, Ethan replied calmly. I gave him a choice. That sentence hit harder than any weapon. The commanders looked at each other. Choice. War. Beasts were never given choice. They were trained. Controlled. Used. The High Commander's eyes narrowed. If he truly has choice, then prove it. Zarya felt a sudden fear. What do you mean? The commander pressed a control button on the main screen. Corridor 7 appeared live. Kratos stood alone. The commander spoke coldly. We will trigger combat protocol. Zarya's heart stopped. Combat protocol meant battle simulation. Loud noises, aggressive holographic enemies, war triggers, designed to awaken rage. If the beast attacks the human again, the commander continued, we will know the humans. Influence was temporary. And if he does not? Ethan asked quietly. The commander's voice dropped. Then we will consider that perhaps humans are more dangerous than we believed. The test began. Alarms sounded in Corridor 7. Red lights flashed. Holographic enemies appeared. Explosions echoed. Kratos' body stiffened instantly. His 6 eyes flared bright yellow. The old war instinct returned. Zarya held her breath. Ethan did not move. On the screen, Kratos roared. Loud. Powerful. Terrifying. He crushed one holographic enemy. Then another. His claws moved with deadly precision. The commanders nodded. See? He remains a weapon. But then, something unexpected happened. Kratos suddenly stopped. He looked around. Confused. The enemies kept attacking, but instead of charging blindly, he backed up. His eyes searched the corridor, looking for something. Or someone. The commanders frowned. What is he doing? Then, the door at the end of the corridor opened. Ethan stepped inside. Alone. The holographic enemies still active. Kratos turned toward him. The war beast's body was tense, breathing heavy. Old rage rising. The entire chamber watched. Zarya whispered, please. Kratos took one heavy step toward Ethan, then another. The tension was unbearable. Would he attack? Would he obey old training? Kratos stopped in front of Ethan. He looked at him. 6 glowing eyes. Then slowly he lowered his head. The holographic enemies struck his back. He ignored them. Instead, he moved closer to Ethan. And stood beside him. Not as a weapon. As a protector. The chamber went completely silent. The High Commander stared in disbelief. Kratos was not attacking. He was choosing the human. choosing calm over rage, choosing care over command. Ethan gently placed a hand on the massive head. "You're okay," he said softly. Kratos let out that deep vibrating rumble again. And this time, the sound echoed through the entire station. Not as a threat, but as a new beginning. To be continued. The high command chamber was silent. No one spoke. On the screen, Kratos stood beside Ethan. Not attacking, not raging, just standing there. Calm. The holographic enemies were still active. Explosions flashed around him, but the war beast ignored them. He had made his choice. The High Commander slowly turned off the combat simulation. The red lights disappeared. The corridor returned to normal, but nothing felt normal anymore. Zarya felt something breaking inside her. Not her pride. Something deeper, a belief she had carried for years. She left the chamber without waiting for permission. Ethan followed her quietly. Corridor 7. Later that night, the station was calm again. Most aliens had stopped talking, but whispers still moved through the halls. Humans are strange. Humans change things. Kratos lay on the metal floor. Clean scales shining. His breathing was steady. Peaceful. Zia, RYA, stood a few steps away from him. She did not speak. Ethan watched her carefully. "You're angry," he said softly. She did not look at him. "I am confused." Ethan nodded. "That makes sense." Zarya finally turned toward him. "You do not understand what he was made for." "Then help me understand," Ethan replied calmly. Zarya hesitated. Then she spoke. "He was born in a breeding facility." Her voice was lower now. "No sky, no sunlight, only metal walls." Ethan listened silently. They tested him as a hatchling. Loud sounds, pain triggers, hunger control. Her hands slowly clenched. If he showed fear, they punished him. Kratos shifted slightly in his sleep. As if hearing the memory, Zarya continued. "He survived longer than any of his kind. He destroyed every opponent. He protected my fleet." Her voice almost trembled. "He was perfect." Ethan looked at Kratos. "No," he said quietly. "He was surviving." Zarya's eyes flashed. "You insult his strength." "I respect it," Ethan replied. "But strength is not the same as happiness." The word hung in the air. Happiness. Zarya had never connected that word with a war beast. Kratos suddenly made a small sound in his sleep. Not a growl, a soft, restless vibration. Ethan slowly stepped closer. He noticed something on the creature's side. Under the clean scales. Thin lines, injection scars, burn marks, hidden under years of dirt. Ethan's expression changed. They modified him. Zarya did not answer, because she knew it was true. They increased aggression, Ethan continued softly. They suppressed calming hormones. Zarya's breathing became heavier. He was built to never relax. Silence filled the corridor. Ethan sat down on the metal floor near Kratos. He did not touch him yet, just sat close. "You know something strange?" Ethan said quietly. Zarya looked at him. "On Earth, we used animals in wars too. Horses, dogs." Zarya listened carefully. "But after war ended," Ethan continued, "we gave them homes." Zarya's voice was tight. "Kratos does not need a home." Ethan looked at her directly. He already had one. Zarya's chest tightened. "He had me." "Yes," Ethan said gently. "But did he have peace?" That question hit harder than any command from high command. Zarya slowly walked toward Kratos. She looked at his scars, truly looked at them not as marks of honor, but as wounds. Kratos slowly opened 2 of his 6 eyes. He saw her. He did not stand. He did not roar. He just blinked slowly. Zarya lowered herself to one knee. Very slowly. She extended her hand. Kratos watched her carefully. She hesitated, then softly placed her hand on his clean scales. For the first time she did not command. She did not expect obedience that she just touched. Kratos. Body tensed for 1 second. Old training. Old fear. Then he relaxed. The deep rumble started again. Soft. Steady. Zar. Why felt vibration move through her palm. Tears formed in her eyes. She had never seen him like this. Never this calm. Never this safe. He was always angry. She whispered. Ethan shook his head. No, he was always hurting. Those words changed something. Zarya lowered her head. All those years, she thought rage meant strength, that she thought obedience meant loyalty. But now, she saw something new. Choice. Kratos slowly shifted his massive body and gently placed his head in Zarya's lap. The war beast. The destroyer of fleets, resting like a child. Zarya's hands trembled as she stroked his scales. He feels different, she whispered. He feels free, Ethan answered. For a long moment, none of them spoke. Just quiet breathing, soft mechanical hum of the station, and the steady vibration of a peaceful creature, but far away. Inside the high command chamber, the officers were watching another screen, a data monitor. Kratos' aggression levels were dropping. Stress hormones decreasing. Obedience signals weakening. One commander spoke darkly. He is becoming unstable. The high commander's eyes narrowed. No, he said slowly. He is becoming independent. That was far more dangerous. The commander turned to his tactical officer. Prepare containment protocol. Back in Corridor 7, Kratos suddenly lifted his head. All 6 eyes opened at once. Bright. Alert. He sensed something. Ethan felt it too. What is it? He asked quietly. Kratos stood up. Not in rage. In protection. Heavy mechanical doors at the end of the corridor began to close. Red warning lights activated. Zarya looked around in shock. What are they doing? Ethan's voice became serious. They're not testing him anymore. The doors locked shut. Metal barriers dropped from the ceiling. A cold mechanical voice echoed. Containment protocol activated. Kratos stepped forward, standing between Ethan and the sealed doors, not as a weapon of war, but as a guardian by choice. Zarya's heart pounded. They think he is broken. Ethan looked at the massive creature beside him. No, he said firmly. They're afraid he's healed. To be continued. Red lights flashed across Corridor 7. Metal walls sealed shut. Energy barriers activated from the ceiling. A cold mechanical voice repeated. Containment protocol active. Stand down. Kratos did not stand down. He stood taller, massive body blocking Ethan and Zarya. 6 glowing eyes scanning every direction. Not confused. Not wild. Focused. Zar. Waya looked up at the security cameras. They are afraid of him, she said. Quietly. Ethan shook his head. They're afraid of what he represents. Heavy mechanical footsteps echoed from the far end of the corridor. Armored containment units. Large battle drones. Shock cannons charging. Zarya's eyes widened. They are treating him like a rogue weapon. Kratos let out a deep growl, but this growl was different from before. It was not blind rage. It was warning. Ethan slowly stepped beside the massive creature. You don't have to fight, he said softly. Kratos' tail moved once. Slow. Controlled. The first containment drone entered the corridor. Metal body. Blue electric nets ready to fire. A first containment drone entered the corridor. Metal body. Blue electric nets ready to fire. Metal body. Blue electric nets ready to fire. Commander's voice echoed through speakers. War beast Kratos, stand down and kneel. Kratos did not move. The voice repeated, louder, kneel. For years that command worked instantly. Years of training, years of forced obedience. Pain if he refused. Reward if he obeyed. Zarya held her breath. This was the moment. Would he return to old programming? Would fear control him again? Kratos' body tensed. Memories flashed inside his mind. Metal rooms, pain shocks, battle screens, command voices, kneel, attack, destroy. His claws dug into the floor. The drones aimed weapons. Energy crackled in the air. Ethan slowly stepped forward. No armor, no shield. He stood directly in front of Kratos, between the beast and the drones. The guards watching from control screens gasped. What is the human doing? Ethan raised one hand calmly. He's not your weapon, he said clearly. The commander's voice turned sharp. Move aside, human. Ethan did not move. You want him to kneel? Ethan said firmly. Ask him. Silence. That word again. Ask. The commander laughed coldly. He does not choose. He obeys. Ethan looked back at Kratos. Do you want to kneel? For a split second, the entire station felt frozen. Kratos' 6 eyes locked on Ethan. No commands. No shock triggers. Just a question. Do you want to kneel? The drones fired warning sparks. Energy bolts hit the floor near Kratos' feet. Old fear tried to rise inside him. Old training screamed in his instincts. Obey, kneel, avoid pain. Kratos slowly lowered his body. The control room officers smiled. He remembers. But then, Kratos stopped halfway. His muscles trembled, his breathing heavy. Then he looked at Ethan. The human did not shout, did not command. Just stood there, trusting, believing. Kratos slowly lifted himself back up, fully standing, stronger than before. The corridor shook as his claws pressed deep into metal. The commander's voice turned furious. Shock him. The drones fired electric nets. Blue lightning wrapped around Kratos' body. His massive frame shook. Zarya screamed, Stop! Kratos roared, loud, painful, but not in rage, in resistance. Instead of attacking blindly, he turned his body slightly, shielding Ethan and Zarya from the electric net. The net burned into his scales. Smoke rose, but he did not fall. He did not kneel. Ethan stepped closer, shouting, You are not their weapon. The electric current increased. Kratos' legs trembled. This was the old world trying to pull him back. Pain, control, fear. But something new existed now. Warm hands, gentle water, freedom to rest, freedom to choose. With one massive movement, Kratos slammed his body against the floor. The electric net snapped apart. The shock drones malfunctioned and fell. Sparks filled the corridor. Silence followed. Kratos stood breathing heavily, not attacking, not charging, just standing, choosing. The High Command chamber was in chaos. This is rebellion, the High Commander whispered slowly. No, this is evolution. Back in Corridor 7, more heavy doors opened. But this time, not drones. Station workers, engineers, guards. They had been watching everything. They saw the human stand without fear. They saw the beast refuse pain. One guard slowly lowered his weapon. He protected them, the guard whispered. Another followed. Then another. Zarya stepped forward. Her voice was loud and clear. He is not broken. She looked at the cameras. He is no longer a slave. The words echoed through the entire station. Kratos slowly walked toward the sealed barrier door. He placed one massive claw against it. Not attacking, just touching. Ethan stood beside him. Open the door, Ethan said calmly. For several long seconds, nothing happened. Then, the red lights turned off. The barrier lifted. Containment protocol deactivated. Kratos stepped forward into the open corridor. Free, not running, not rampaging, walking calmly. The most feared war beast on the station. Now walking without chains. Zarya looked at him with new eyes. Not as property, not as weapon, but as partner. The High Commander's voice echoed one final time. This changes everything, Ethan smiled slightly. That's the point. Kratos let out a deep rumble, not rage, not threat. Power, but controlled power. And across the station, one truth became clear. Humans did not dominate through fear. They changed the battlefield itself. To be continued. The station was no longer the same. Corridor 7 was open. No red lights. No alarms. No electric cages. Kratos walked freely now, not as a weapon, not as property, but as a living being. Aliens moved aside. When he passed, not out of fear, out of respect. Zia, Rya, walked beside him. Ethan slightly ahead, but the High Command had not forgotten. Inside the central chamber, leaders from nearby fleets appeared through hologram projection. This incident spreads quickly. One fleet leader said, "A war beast refusing command," another added, "Influenced by a human." The High Commander stood silent for a moment. Then he spoke calmly, "Bring them here." The final confrontation. The central hall was massive, tall silver pillars, bright white light from above, dozens of officers watching. Zarya entered first. Kratos walked behind her, every heavy step echoed. Ethan walked beside them. Unarmed, unafraid. A fleet leader pointed at Kratos. "That creature has ended wars." Another spoke coldly, "And now it disobeys." Zarya stood straight. "He chooses." Murmurs filled the chamber. One officer scoffed. "Choice is weakness." Ethan stepped forward. "No," he said calmly, "choice is strength." All eyes turned to him. The fleet leader narrowed his glowing eyes. "You are a mechanic. You dare speak of strength?" Ethan did not react. "On Earth," he began, "we once thought control was strength too." Silence fell. But the strongest soldiers were not the ones forced to fight. He looked at Kratos. They were the ones who chose to stand. The High Commander observed carefully. "Then prove it," he said. A large metal gate opened on the far side of the chamber. Inside stood a captured rogue. Combat drone. Huge. Armed. Programmed only for destruction. It activated instantly. Red sensors. Glowing. Weapons charging. "This drone has no emotion," the commander said. "No pain. No fear. No doubt." The drone fired a warning blast. Energy exploded across the floor. Officers stepped back. "Let your beast show us his new strength." Zarya felt tension rise. Ethan looked at Kratos. He did not give an order. He simply nodded once. Kratos stepped forward. The drone charged. Heavy metal claws swinging. Energy. Cannons firing. Kratos dodged the first strike, but he did not roar wildly. He moved with control. The drone attacked. Again, Kratos blocked with his armored scales. The chamber shook. Years ago, he would have destroyed it instantly in rage, but now he waited. Watched. Calculated. The drone lunged toward Ethan. That was its mistake. Kratos moved faster than anyone expected. He slammed the drone away from the human. Protecting. Not attacking for glory. Attacking for choice. The drone fired point blank at Kratos. Smoke rose from his scales. Pain flashed in his eyes. Old instinct screamed, "Destroy everything." But he did not lose control. Instead, he grabbed the drone's weapon arm, crushed it calmly. Then pinned the machine to the floor. He did not tear it apart wildly. He disabled it. Precise. Controlled. The chamber went silent. The drone powered down. Kratos stood over it, breathing heavy but calm. He turned his head, not to the commanders. To Ethan. Ethan smiled slightly. "That's it." Kratos stepped back. The war beast had proven something new. Not that he was strong, but that he could decide how to use his strength. The High Commander slowly stood. "I see it now," he said quietly. The fleet leaders watched carefully. This creature is no longer controlled by fear. He looked at Ethan. "And neither are humans." Ethan shrugged softly. "We were never built for obedience." Zarya stepped beside Kratos. He is not weaker, she said clearly. He is freer. One fleet leader muttered. A free weapon is dangerous. Ethan shook his head. A free mind is unstoppable. The High Commander gave a slow nod. Then perhaps the galaxy misunderstood humanity. He turned to the officers. End war beast program on this station. Gasps filled the chamber. Zarya's eyes widened. The High Commander continued. Effective immediately. Kratos slowly walked back to Ethan and Zarya. He lowered his massive head slightly, not kneeling. Just rest in. Zarya gently placed her hand on his clean scales. She looked at Ethan. I thought power meant control, she admitted quietly. Ethan replied softly, real power is knowing you don't need to control. The chamber lights softened. The war beast stood free. The program ended, and something bigger began. As they left the hall, aliens stepped aside again, but this time they were not afraid of Kratos. They were thinking about humans. About kindness, about choice. About strength without chains. Kratos walked between Zarya and Ethan. Not owned, not commanded. Just walking. Partner. In a galaxy full of weapons, the strongest force turned out to be something no one trained. Humanity. And that was something no army could ever contain. The end.